Live right now. What's up, everybody? We are liveus on YouTubulous with Mr. Keith Payne, Mr. High Five Vega,
Oh my gosh.
and he doesn't have me muted.
Oh my gosh.
That is
Someone.
an amateur move for somebody who was dressed so fancily.
Let's see, I done it just for Craig. Craig likes me to look nice.
Okay, well, I've got a suit underneath my t-shirt. All right, yeah, people are commenting now. So we are live nationwide, worldwide. We got people watching in Australia. We got people watching in. I didn't ever tell you all this, and you'll probably appreciate this. So when you have subscribers on YouTube, it lets you go through and see what country they're from, and it gives you like the highest number of viewers from one country and the lowest. So obviously United States is the highest, but I went down to find like the lowest ones, and there's Zimbabwe. I've got one subscriber.
Oh, I've got some from Lithuania.
And I think Congo had one too. I'm sitting there going,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Congo in the house. One of them. So yeah, guys, we are having fun here a little bit before the show. Got Mr. Keith Payne here with us. He's in the background there, being all quiet because we hadn't asked him to talk yet, but he's ready to answer some questions. If you guys have any fabrication-related questions, or I guess anything else, Keith, you kind of cover the gamut there, don't
Yeah,
you?
it don't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I'll
guys may
try.
notice a little bit his video is a little bit soft because I think his internet connection where he's at. So what we're going to try to do is share pictures because Keith has got so many cool pictures of his builds over the years. We're going to do a lot of sharing of his pictures, and I think he's going to talk about them as well. So we'll spend quite a bit of time doing that. But just so you know, the video he's sharing is it's a little choppy. So we'll just go with it. So how's everybody in the chat doing there? Yeah, somebody sees the Savard shirt I have back here. Now, Keith, you
Oh,
you probably know that's Lucas, right? Because that looks just like Lucas.
it does, doesn't it?
Isn't that him?
It looks just like him. It
Okay,
does.
I was pretty sure that's Lucas. Lucas, you're
I can
watching.
confirm or deny that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's him. Because if it's not, it's an uncanny copy of him. But
I
yeah,
think he might have pumped his muscles up a little bit in that shirt.
yeah, I don't know. He's a little buff. Him and Will both. I see they
They've
work
been
out
hitting
or
the
something.
gym, huh?
Yep, they've been hitting the gym. Let's see here. Old school worldwide. Check out the Savard shirt. Love the LP banner, Keith.
Thank you.
Yeah, Keith's rocking
That's a
the LP.
gift from Ray Phil.
And Ray did not sponsor this ad, but yeah,
Not.
Ray is coming on in the future, so we're going to talk to him too. And yeah, we'll have fun talking with Keith tonight. Let's see. Looks just like him with the pop collars and all.
Oh man.
It does.
Lucas, if you're watching, that's you, man.
I know he's too young when he used to wear you wear like three of them and then
Yeah,
pop all the collars. Maybe he's trying to bring it back though.
I think he is.
Yeah, man. Start your own trends.
Cool. Well, I guess it's close. It's 8 o'clock right now on the dot. So, Mr. Hi-Fi, are you ready to roll with the intro and don't screw it up like I did last time?
Yep. I'm not going to guarantee I don't screw it up, but
Okay, well, that's
let's
all
do it.
good. If you screw it up, we'll just start over and do it again because we can always cut out the segment.
Yeah.
All right, those who are watching live, as you know how this works, most of you who've watched us before, we record, and Vega, as he drinks his soda pop there,
Yeah. I got to
we
get the vocal.
yeah, we record this live for our podcast, so you're going to hear us go straight into a segment where we're all serious and we're not watching you guys questions and stuff, even though I might still watch them. But we're going to go straight into the audio version of our podcast so we can record it straight for about an hour or so, get our interview done with Keith, and then we're going to stay on a little bit afterwards, and you guys can ask questions about anything that we talked about or anything you want to see again, maybe that I popped up on the screen, you didn't see it long enough. Anything like that. So we are ready to go, I guess.
Yeah, we're ready to roll.
All right. So I'm gonna do the countdown, and Vega, it'll be on you. Let me pull up the screen real quick, like a big dummy. I'm not even sharing the screen yet. Okay.
We do 12-volt podcast.
Shut up. That's not even funny. All right, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2.
12-volt talk, episode 15. It's Hi-Fi Vega here, joined as always by my good buddy Big D Wiz. You can find me at hifivega.com or YouTube/hifivega.com. And I'll kick it to you, Big D.
Yeah, so you did so much better than I did last week.
Silence.
It's funny. I'm not picking on Rob because we do this every week. You know, we try to be so professional and straight. And he said YouTube hifivega.com or something.
Yeah.
So just look up Hi-Fi Vega and you'll find him. Look up Big D Wiz and you'll find me. I'm on youtube.com/Big D Wiz. I'm on Instagram with Old School Stereo and oldschoolstereo.com. And tonight we have a special guest. We have Mr. Keith Payne from Payne's Custom Fabrication down in Mobile, Alabama. How you doing tonight, Keith?
Thanks for having me.
Hey, there he is. Now, just to give you all a caveat, Keith's network connection down there is a little bit, kind of a little bit slow, so we're probably going to be showing mostly pictures as Keith is talking, because his video is a little bit mushed up because of the slow connection. So just in case you guys don't see a whole lot of him, it's not because we don't want to show him. We do want to show him, but we'd rather get his audio preferential over his video. So we'll get right into it, Keith. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into car audio?
Long time ago. I guess it was 19 working at a local shop here in town after high school, after the work program we had after hours, after we got out of school early, and did that to some, had the opportunity to go to college and in Mississippi. That's my first business card right there. Place I worked for many years, TNT Car Stereo. That was where my career really started, was with Tommy and there. A lot of fun. In fact, he just recently, I believe he was in business 31 or 32 years, just recently sold and retired.
Oh, wow. How many, you said 31 years?
I think it was 31 or 32 years he was in business. Company's still there. Another friend of ours that's been in business since 79, Empress Audio out of Pascagoula, Mississippi, bought him out. So the company's still there. It's going to be called TNT, but it's under new ownership. But years, and then I went to work for a company which was probably one of my best career company, called CKR in Montgomery, Alabama, and worked with a guy named Walter Barno. That was I asked a judge, knock a judge. He went way back. I worked with him for many years, and then I moved back and my own. Hadn't really worked for anybody. I'll go to some shops and help out if they need help, or do some jobs that they don't want to mess with. But for the most part, I've been on my own since about 04, 05.
So Keith, what year was this TNT your first?
86, 1986.
That's old school right there.
I worked for him full time.
So your first job was in car audio then?
That's a long time ago. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
My part-time job when I was in high school was a place called Ken's Car, which is still here. It's still in existence. But I was, a little helper guy, helped the stereo guys, but when I went to work for Tommy at TNT, he really took the time to teach me some things, take me places. On Wheel Nationals, New Orleans, I believe it was whenever the Nationals were, October, November 86, and that's when I got hooked. It's been downhill ever since. I built my first competition vehicle, and that's the Toyota I sent you some pictures of. It's the first truck that we built. And
I'm going to share those
it
pictures
was
real
pretty
quick here.
insane for old school back in the day.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pull that up, Keith, so everybody can see that that 1980 Toyota pickup. Let me share that real quick. Again, those who are listening to this is really going to be a visual intensive podcast, so please make sure you go to the youtube.com/12etalk. We'll try to describe it the best we can for those who are not watching, but if you are watching, this is the best way to see this because we are going to show a lot of pictures.
Yeah, this looks like a little, like a mini Bigfoot Toyota, though.
Yeah, it was a 1981 Toyota four-wheel drive. See, it says powered by TNT on the side of it. That was our little advertisement. But I ran Hafler amplifiers from Rockford on the mids and highs, and the 10. That's my buddy. That's the vent that was through the bed. A 7th order quasi enclosure, a 3-chamber, 3-ported kind of weird box that was designed at Rockford at the first RTTI that we participated in, and believe it or not, it had 2 the beams, and we thought we needed a lot of power for that type of enclosure, so we put in there and kept blowing subs. Didn't realize how efficient the enclosure actually was, so we ended up actually running a punch 150 on the 215s. Competed at CKR, went to some shows. Those old Precision Power pieces were all powered by the DIN cables at that time. They had no power and grounds. 50 had that ability. They had DIN cables on them back then. And they would phantom power that stuff up. And that's how I was able to use that stuff. And I've always been I like a preamp for the mids and highs. It's just the crossover for the front, crossover for the subs. That's when that Joker had plenty of allure in it.
Yeah. Hey, man, that truck's cool. I drive that truck right now with the system and all. That's awesome.
That's an old, had a half DIN radio that was AM FM. The other piece that is under it is a half DIN piece. You mounted them together to make a full DIN. And it controlled a 12-disc changer big as a suitcase.
Oh, my gosh.
And that was a Panasonic product. That was like Panasonic's high-end.
That's cool.
Yeah, I do remember that product, but I don't remember it having the 2 different parts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I got that pursuit. This is early '87 with show, and met Jeff Schoon with Precision Power at the time, and made some deals happen, and we became a Precision Power dealer as well as we were a Rockford dealer, and that's how I got into the Precision Power deal. So I've known Jeff ever since. Real super nice guy. I meet the owners of these companies and talk to them and hang out with them and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Big D, you're silence there, buddy. We got you though.
Yeah, you got me. Keith, your audio is going in and out quite a bit. I don't know, Rob, if you want to tell him again maybe how to mute his video, maybe that'll help some.
Oh, okay. So if you click on your screen to the right side, you could click the thing that looks like a camera with a slash through it. Click that, and it should just leave it on your picture. All you'll see is your picture.
And then you'll still see us, I think. But there you go.
You should still be able to see us and talk.
Right.
There we go. We'll
Now,
try it
can you
that
see
way.
that picture?
Yeah,
Yeah,
We'll try
that's
it
a
that
cute little
way and
puppy.
see if it sounds better. It was breaking up quite a bit. But anyway, didn't mean to.
That's my Winnie dog doing CrossFit.
Oh man.
So let's go into some more of your builds, Keith. What about the with the shadow, the Hyphonic shadow be the next one you want to show?
No, it was actually the shadow, but with the Rockford in it.
Oh,
You
the
have
shadow
those?
with the Rockford. Okay. All right, I'll pull that one up real quick. So this is a what year is the shadow?
1987.
So that
Classic. Yeah, the
yeah,
classic
this is like
1986.
a
wheels.
There it goes.
and it's
Yeah,
got
those
like a
are actually,
sunrise paint job.
yeah, those are actually uh, Boyd wheels.
Oh, like Boyd Coddington.
Yeah, Keith's audio I
Yes,
think is. Oh,
yes.
there he is. He's
There he
back.
is.
Keith, I think those pictures you're trying to send me are still trying to come through the internet. I think they're bogging your connection down trying to get to me. So it's you said a
87.
87, and yeah, that's a killer paint job, man. I really like that, and the wheels look good too.
Yeah, for the people listening to audio, it's kind of like a morning sunrise. It starts off orange and it's layered up into yellow.
A bright yellow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So there's a picture of the inside, and again, for
Very
those
expensive back in the day.
absolutely, for those who are watching or listening, we've got it looks like the 6 punch subs behind the seats.
815s.
Eight.
wow,
Eight
wow.
punch classic 15s. Had 8 punch 200s, one on each 15. And then two 4080 punches, the DSMs running the mids and highs. You can't see the other ones are down in the bottom, but it had 8 200s in it.
Wow. So D, go back to the picture with the seats and the 15s. You know how I could tell this is an old school build right here? There's no headrest.
No headrest.
No headrest.
Free hair trick. You don't need
Yeah.
headrests,
Yeah.
right? You got base to keep your head moving
That,
forward.
that that was the classic old school move right there. No headrest.
Yeah, I want to go back to the amps too. That's sweet the way they were installed.
Yeah.
Very
That was kind
clean.
of the classic install for those amps, wasn't it? I've seen a lot like that, in that kind of formation.
And it looks like it's got is that a video player, Keith, in the dash? It looks like down here at the bottom by the
Actually,
shifter.
that is it had an old Clarion 7770, I think is what it was called. But I had the ability to acquire one of the first Adzest 5-inch motorized flipped out screens. 8 millimeter video player.
And did those have something to do with it was Clarion, but didn't Macintosh have something to do with the Adzest, or am I getting confused here?
Later,
Later.
I believe that came. But Macintosh was there, and then the Japanese version. When we went to the CES show. We actually bought that unit off of Clarion's display, and it had the instructions were in Japanese, and locally read them to us so we'd know how to hook it up.
That's funny. And it had Google Translate back then neither.
What was the purpose, Keith, of the dual
Not
preamps?
at all. Front end, I've always been that guy that wanted two controls.
All right, cool. Yeah, that looks awesome. let's see what else. Which one do you want to go with next?
Yeah. What's your favorite build that you
Go
can
to the
think of?
Hyphonics.
All right.
That was that actually belonged to me, or that I had done. Period.
Either one. Oh man, that's cool.
Well, by myself with the Hyphonics in it there. That was the name of the store that I worked at, Cruising Tunes. And I think that was probably because the relationship we had with the company. I was able to travel actually with Helmet, and which was the owner of the company at the time. And this is probably early 90s.
And those are all the Series 8
And
amps?
I don't know if y'all may. Yes, yeah. And I don't know if we had a model. Dana was our model. Kirkland that had the Hyphonics Blazer that everybody remembers. We were always able to share booths together, so I was able to meet. That was one of the first times I really got to travel and meet, a lot of good people, because we
That's
went
awesome.
everywhere. We went everywhere with it.
And for the people on audio podcasts, he's got 4 Zeus Series 8 amps, 2 Odins, and 2 Plutos, all in the back hatchback. Also, looks like you got is that Phoenix Gold
Right. Now,
RCA
when you show
cables?
the interior picture of that car, let's see again, 2 preamps. I'm stuck on that again.
Yeah, the Callisto. That's a hard piece to find nowadays.
And that was the Callisto crossover, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Epsilon, the 2 preamps. And then that's 8mm player again with the 8-inch Sony Trinitron that was like 15 inches deep.
Oh man, that's awesome. That thing wasn't cheap, was it?
No, I think when we bought that, it was around $2,500
Wow.
for the 8mm, the tuner, and the TV.
Wow. That's like, $4,000 or $5,000 piece nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, and the crazy thing about that type TV is obviously when the bass hit really hard, the picture tube, it had a picture tube in it, so the picture tube would go wavy.
Oh man, I can only imagine.
That's the Altec Lansing carbon fiber components that I used indoors.
Oh yeah, those are nice. I remember those. I never got a chance to hear any, but I remember seeing them in all the magazines. Oh, there you go. You had the deck on the outside too. How loud was this car?
Loudest it ever made was 55 on
Wow.
55.2, I think, on a B&K.
Wow, what were the drivers? Oh
And
man,
I thought it was neat. Well, you'll see it has Pile Pro Driver 2s in it.
wow, man, that's
16.
pretty crazy from them drivers. I've never seen them do anything like that.
Keith, what is up with the ones at the top there? Do you have like 2 angled, one on each side at the very top?
Correct. Remember the picture you saw, that 115 that kind of stuck out like that in the 815 build?
Yeah.
Well, the car got so narrow. The car got so narrow at the top. Obviously it wasn't 4 speakers wide. It was only enough for 3. So I had to figure out a way to put them in there. And again, that's why the headrest, when you set the seat, was turn to the left or to the right. That's what you got to look at.
So how many of those pile drivers did you have in there?
16.
Oh wow! For the people listening, they're the old school pile, and they're kind of in a clamshell type formation. And back in the day, like if you done that on a B8K, that was the hard meter back in the day. Audio control was easy when I was competing, anyways. and the B&K was really where you made your money.
Yeah, we used to rent them. You could rent them for $500 a month from Texas Instruments, and we would rent them so we could tune and maybe put on a show or whatever and try to get some of our money back. But the main thing was to be able to tune your car, find your frequencies,
Yeah.
and figure out the stuff. Well, of course, we always had to play flash dance. We couldn't run tones.
Yeah.
So you're playing flash dance. So you had to find your note.
Yeah, that's real old school right there.
So related to the microphone, I'll tell a microphone story as we get into more of your builds here down the way, because we have a funny one. All right, so I'm looking at some of the other. Let's see, we showed the Shadow, the Hyphonics. You want to talk about the 48-hour build you did in 2001?
Well, that was one had actually started working at Best Buy, believe it or not, and a longtime friend of mine worked for Sound Advice in Florida, and that's him right there, the redheaded guy. That's Steve Morrison, and he had you had to apply for this build, and he had applied. I think this was the 4th year they'd done it, and he got accepted or whatever. Needed a 5-man team, and he invited me to go build with him, and so we went to Spring Break Nationals in Daytona. And the way you had the car covered up, you didn't know what you were doing. And when they started the clock, they unveiled the car, and you had 48 hours to do whatever. And when you got done, you had to compete along with the competitors in the contest. And if you could win, you won big money. 2 teams. It was us. We were called the Rhino Maniacs. And the other team, I believe their names, they were called Thunder Buttons or something. And we were actually the first team to complete a car, finished, stopped working, everything was done. And I think it was about 46 hours. And we offered to help the other team finish their car.
Oh, that's crazy. I'm going to show the end product here so people can see it.
Yeah, everybody called that the peanut.
Oh wow, I think it's important to mention for the audio listeners. This isn't like your average install here. As a matter of fact, I couldn't do this in 4 days, maybe not even 4 weeks.
Well, to us, it was some of the fur. Those are the Bazooka water-cooled drivers. You see the tubes at the top?
Yeah.
There's a video screen in the center of that grill.
Wow.
Everybody called that little thing the peanut. The amplifiers were motorized, used JL audio amplifiers. We actually did a heads-up display for the radio in the top of the dash.
Wow.
Everything under the hood was glassed and painted. It was a long 48 hours. But,
I bet that's incredible. It doesn't look like 48 hours of work. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was everything's dynamatted. I mean, Select Products sponsored it. They supplied everything. You didn't have to bring anything other than candy and caffeine.
So what'd you guys do? Just split it up? Like you got the sound deadening, you start building the enclosure, you do the wiring?
Yeah, pretty much so. Steve and another gentleman from here in Mobile, that's a well-known fabricator, Thad Williams, he went down there with us, and one started under the hood, one started on the enclosure. I started running wires. The other 2 guys we had pulled door panels, started dynamatting, and we all just kind of met in the middle.
That's crazy. I think if you gave me and Big D about 48 hours, we could get you a head unit, maybe some coax.
Yeah, I might be able to get through the firewall.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's why we're not experts and you guys are.
Yeah.
So I've got I got some video of your Tundra because I wanted to show that. Let me pull it up real quick. If I can find the right screen here. Let's see here. Here we go. So those who are watching this, I'm going to leave everything muted on the screen, but I'm just going to show you guys Keith's Tundra, and you see the linear power amps here. This may be a little jerky for those watching, just because of the frame rate. It's not really designed to show full motion video. But you can see we've got Serwin Vega Stroker 18s behind the seat. I think there are 3 18s. Is that right, Keith?
Correct. 318s.
3 18s. A nice little LP logo there in front, and you can see the amps are kind of mounted to those rear access doors. And the interesting thing about this truck, and there's the front end, real clean install there in the door. Everything looks nice and factory. The tweeters all flush mounted in. And are those 6.5s or 8s in the doors?
They're 6.5s. It's the 6.5 passive blues components that linear power has.
Yep. And so it's hard to see this part of the video, but if you guys watch my videos, at the very beginning I've got like a short segment where I show a lot of short clips. Well, one of the clips is actually Keith's Tundra, and the center console there shaking to death. But yeah, this thing was very impressive, and that kind of leads me to a question here, Keith, because and you and I have talked about this before. You used the linear power amps in this build, and the linear power amps are class AB, and each one of those amps is rated 500 watts, and you've got
500 watts.
3 of them on the 18s.
Correct.
And so just so people who are listening and watching can't understand how loud and low and deep that Tundra is, I would say to my ears it would be equivalent maybe to 5,000 or 6,000 watts that you would think. Like if Keith didn't tell you how much power he had going to those subs and you sat in there, you would come out thinking there were many thousands of watts. So what was your thoughts, Keith, in going with the class AB, the linear amps, versus going with some of the newer class D amplifiers?
I tell you, probably the number one thing that made my decision was understanding how the amplifiers work. Just as a comparison, the old school Rockford stuff that I used obviously was class AB, back in the day. The Hyphonics, same way. When I got hooked on the linear stuff, it was just, they just play. They if the note is there, they reproduce it. The biggest compliment I get is I'll go to shows and decaf or Got 160s or whatever anybody's playing. Hair's moving, things are jumping, and they say, "Man, I want to hear this song in your truck." And I'm like, "Okay." So we'll listen to it, and the biggest thing people do is they say, "Well, I didn't hear that in my truck. I didn't know it went that low." They're a different animal. I can play all day, every day, hours on end, never get hot, never shut off. That truck's being built going on 5 years. A couple variances, moving amps around, things like that. But for the most part, it's been together. I try never to take it apart when it doesn't play. And they just work. That's what I wanted, was something that when I turned it on, it played. And my truck's been sitting in my yard for 3 weeks. When I drove it here to the shop tonight, it played just as good as it did the day I put it together. So that's what made, I put in a lot of Class Ds. I sent you some pictures of one of the latest builds that I had a part in that's got all Class D stuff in it. It's not bad stuff. It serves a purpose, but it's not what I want. That's a friend of mine, Fabian's. It's got the new DD21s in it with 2 M5s, which is like 10,000 watts on each 21-inch woofer.
My God.
Yeah. The enclosure.
So it's got the Punisher logo.
Yeah. The Billy Temple, which is a friend of mine out of Mississippi, actually built the enclosure and did all that fab work in that truck. What I did was tuned it. You can see in that picture the port looks larger, and then in some other ones it looks smaller. I went in and actually shrunk the port and tuned it. Billy built the shell and everything for it. Yeah, that's where it's got partitions on each side that block it. They're like 9 inches thick. Truck, tremendous. But Fabian, I tell you, with all due respect, it don't play low like my truck does. It's louder, a lot louder, but it don't play the notes the same. It's just a different animal.
And people that don't get to see these pictures, you should really check out the YouTube video. But besides that, all Keith's work, it's all finished out. It's not like these SPL builds you see nowadays where, you got speaker wire running everywhere. You got, just whatever. But all these are finished out, like we used to do it.
Well, that was one thing I was speaking to, and Tommy, the guy that from TNT. I'm still kind of friends with him and talk to him from time to time. And we were talking the other day, and that was one of the comments that were made was, we were kind of brought up different, as far as you didn't show up until it was finished. So, it doesn't discredit the other people. Everybody has their idea finished. Mine is finished.
Yeah.
Just because it plays doesn't mean it's finished. I work on mine all the time. I've changed the rear system in it several times. The box started as a ported enclosure. Now it's the Series 6. It's tuned totally different than anybody want. I talk about the way I tune the enclosure, the ratio front to rear, and people say it don't work, and all I say is listen to it.
Yeah.
The proof's in the way it performs.
Well, and you've got experience. You use the new stuff, the old stuff. You've got a whole gambit of stuff that you're working with, so you kind of know what it sounds like compared to each other, so you can speak with some authority on that.
Well, it's like the Southern Vegas Strokers. Everybody's like, those speakers don't play low. I was like, okay, just listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that's not low, I don't know what low is.
And they haven't been making them subwoofers since the 70s for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just made a comeback with them too, didn't they?
Yeah.
Just re-released them.
Yeah, I haven't had the privilege to see any. I've seen some pictures of some builds, but I haven't had any experience with them. I don't know anybody that has them as of yet. But hey, if they're as good as the old ones, good for them. That was the idea.
All right, so what we'll do next is before we get to your favorite build, we'll go to, and I don't mean that we're picking any one build over another, because I'm sure they're all your babies, but we want to look at the Savard Excursion next.
Okay.
So I'll pull some pictures up of that. You can see the doors here. Are those 10s or 8s in the doors?
It has 3 10s in the bottom of each door, 3 6.5s, and 3 tweeters in each door.
And I'll show a finished out picture of it here too. Yeah, it looks really nice.
Yeah, the concept, and it's still, a lot of things are still work in progress. Obviously, we wanted to get the build playing and get it on the road and let them demo it some. We want, and I'm not saying we won't end up with it that way, but the idea was to rhino line the whole truck. We have a design to do the wrap, kind of make it look like an armored truck, inside and out. But obviously, time permitting, we weren't able to get some of those deals done. So it was, okay, like I said, we don't leave raw wood anywhere. So a lot of people look at it and go, man, that's a lot of carpet. Yeah, it is a lot of carpet, but it looks good.
Yeah.
I would challenge, because we want to show that detail of how the pods are done. And so, if you mold it in and make it all smooth, then you kind of take away from that character. So once it has its finished wrap on it and the whole interior of it is Line-X, then, it'll have a different look. Very functional though. Those 10s are phenomenal. They play mid-bass just out of this world. Yeah, that's the rear. Again, a little different what we did on that, the top 412s, all the 12s in it are all the speakers are pro audio except the 10s that are in the enclosure itself. But those are 4 pro 10s in the top. That's 8 pro 12s ISO mounted in the bottom in a 4th order bandpass.
Wow.
And then you have 10s, a 10, a 6.5, and behind one of those grills is actually a horn and 2 tweeters.
Yeah, I'd noticed that when I seen it up close. I was like, wait a minute, that's a horn in there.
It's actually a horn.
And, just 2 of those pros, 12s and ISO in my setup on 600 watts, man, those things, they do more than you expect. They have limited excursion, but, man, they really, they do more than you think they would.
Well, that's where the enclosure part comes into play. It's just like my strokers. They can only move so far. If I put 10,000 watts on them, they would mechanically move too far. It's just what would happen. So you have to match the enclosure with the power. Everything has to be right. It's a design system, not a generic box with a speaker stuck in it.
Yeah, right. And with the goal of efficiency, that's
Right.
kind of how I done it too. So
yeah, they play. I did Bill Savard. I did his F250 has 212s and an ISO bandpass and a rear console. It's a 2015 F250. I'm running I think it's a JL Audio it's not one of them little mini amps, no bigger than a pack of cigarettes, like 200 watt amp or something on them, 300 watts, and it throws down. I mean, you don't have to have a ton of power, especially if you're using efficient speakers, and bandpass boxes are efficient.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I didn't get the chance to hear this because I got
Big
a
D
good buddy.
broke it.
Yeah.
So
he
the
broke
legend of this story is going to go down. I'm going to have to disprove anybody's thoughts that I broke anything. You guys can keep thinking that, but no, it was. Let me give you a picture here of one of the person's reactions, because I think this pretty much sums it up. If I can find it, big dummy self here don't have the picture. Where is it? Ah, man, must not have saved it. Had a good picture of somebody giving a thumbs up on the inside of it, and I don't know why I didn't save it to the right folder. But yeah, it was true. It was a truly impressive setup for sure. Of course, they had you used the Sound Digital amps. There was 24,000 watts to 2410s.
Yeah, there's 2 12Ks run the 4810s. That's a 4th order bandpass with the 4810s in it. The 12Ks run that. A 5K runs the 4 12s at the top and the rear. Another 5K runs the 8 12s in the rear. The 2Ks that are in the truck run the 10s in the doors in the front. And then it's got 2 800.4s that run the 6.5s and the tweeters.
That's a lot of firepower right there. How much one-aught you got running there, you think?
It's a bunch. There's four Northstar 480s batteries that are behind the front seat, 2 behind each seat, which I wanted to keep my run short. So right behind that wall, going forward, there's 2 480s on each side, and it has 2. I'm not sure what group they are. I think they're Group 34s, the big ones under the hood in the factory locations. All Northstar. Tyler at GP Audio took care of me on that stuff. Really, really good people there too. But and also 2 of their 370 alternators.
Wow.
That truck is set up with an ambulance package where it had 2 alternators.
Wow.
And so there's one on the top of the motor and there's one on the bottom on the opposite side of the motor.
So I didn't get to hear it on the inside, but I definitely heard it when they were playing it. And this thing is brutal, man. Even on the outside, it's brutal.
Yeah, that truck's going to fall apart.
Yeah, it is. I seen the roof rack, and someone is like, well, they should take that off. It's like, well, it's going to take itself off.
Yeah, it's like I said, there's always things, we'll be working on it for a while, just tinkering with it. But I tell you, the amplifiers, I had to give, them kudos as well. I mean, we haven't had any issues. Blowing a fuse here or there, kind of common stuff. But for the most part, they've worked real well.
Oh yeah, and then everybody knows I love Savard speakers, and seems like you're a pretty big fan of them too. They're doing pretty good things, new stuff.
Now, see, Big D, you asked me earlier about Birch or MDF. That truck has a lot of plywood in it.
It looks like it's got some pine on top too.
It does.
Two by fours.
It does.
Yeah, I realize that people, again, watching this is going to be a little jerky because I'm sharing my screen while I'm showing this, but it does give you an idea of the links that Keith went to for the build here to make sure everything was thick and there was a lot of density built in.
Yeah, it consumed a lot of wood.
Looks like a dance floor back there.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
So I did find that picture I was telling you about that kind of sums it up. Here you go.
Oh, it's Curtis's wife, Allie.
Yeah, how you like that? 2 thumbs up. You can't see her the 35 dB earmuff she has on that I brought, but I suggested everybody who got in there wear those because I'm all about keeping my hearing for as long as I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was incredible, Rob. I hate you didn't get to hear it, but we'll have to let you get into it first next time.
Yeah, we'll hear it next time for sure.
Yeah. So let's I guess we'll keep traversing on here. Let's go to the Jeep. And
that's probably one of my favorite all times for a few reasons, but
so what I did, Keith, is I just kind of saved. You had like 38 or so pictures on Facebook. I grabbed a good portion of them. So I'll just kind of go through them kind of slow. If there's anything that you want to pick out.
Well, that's just showing. Kind of lay it out the same way. Lined it all with 2x4s, and I don't know what all pictures I have on Facebook, but that Jeep built kind of on the same premise as the Excursion as far as maximize every inch of room. My buddy Willie, that it belongs to, been a friend for a long time and wanted something that nobody else had, and I can assure you that no one else would do this to a Jeep.
Yeah, that's quite intense, man. You've got like basically 2x4 subfloor and built up.
Right, and then you line it with at least 3, if not 4 layers. That most of it, I'll even mix different materials. I mean, if I have to, if I'm putting a piece in there, I got to sand. I'm gonna make it an MDF. Yeah, because it's easier to sand.
Well, how's the suspension hold up on these?
It don't.
It does.
Like that wall, that's the facial wall and the port for the 615s. Now the roof's off the Jeep in that picture. What we did on that after we got done with it, you couldn't drive it. There was so much weight in the truck that it actually. Now the truck's got 40-inch tires on it and the biggest rough country lift kit they make.
Oh wow!
And the bump stops were bottomed out on the rear. So believe it or not, he went back to rough country. We weighed that truck. He towed it to a scale and weighed that truck. And they built him a custom set of coil springs for the back of that truck. And we put them on there, and it looks like a normal Jeep now.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
Wonder how those brakes work, though.
Slow.
Yeah.
It needs the Brembro big brake kit, huh?
I would say.
Yeah, so that's as the walls are coming up, so to speak, as the house is being built. Now that Jeep has 6 massive audio Hippo 15s in it. Running the JBL GTI 6000, the old Crown. running 6-on mono. That's a compression horn. That's a Savard compression horn in the factory location.
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It'll talk to you.
So that had that big JBL. Big D really loves that amp.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. And
that's how tight the box is to the roof.
Wow.
I mean, there's nowhere. I mean, we literally, when we set the hardtop back on there, you could get the 2 screws in from the back door right there in the front, and the other 2 from the back before the trim panel went on, and bolt the top back on. And there was, I think we figured right at 3/4 of an inch space for the roof.
Wow.
That's when because we gel coated, we sanded, gel coated, painted the interior. It's a bright white. And it's very impressive. Because the front of the truck has the T-tops. We did a 1/2-inch steel plate. I think it's 8 inches wide, 20 inches long. There's a plate on the top and the bottom sandwiched together, and it has a turnbuckle that pulls it down to the floorboard. Kind of like, people put stripper poles in there. We put a turnbuckle in there so we could pull it down, and it still flexes like crazy.
That's funny. So how loud is this vehicle then? This thing.
It's one of those that it's not a number machine. I think the most it's ever done is about a 54, 55 in the, I think, 30 to 32 hertz range. See, that's the 2 480s. There's 2 Northstar 480s on each side, stacked right there on top of the fenders. And this got one GP ground pounder 3. I think it was a 320 alternator on it. Was the biggest one they offered on the Chrysler. And that JBL just took up all the space.
I know, and those amps below it aren't little amps, are they? It's just the JBL so big that it makes them seem smaller.
Yeah, those are 2 power base amps that run as mids and highs. It's all Pro Audio mids and highs, and it's all power base.
Yeah, that's
little door pods we made. It's got dash pods on it. I mean, we had to put this jugger. I love Willie. He said, "Man, I want speakers here, 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 here." I said, "Okay, let's do it." All that stuff's made out of 2-part foam, so it would be real light.
Wow.
Didn't have room to put a nice Kenwood double DIN unit in it with front and rear cameras. We put a camera in the front grill because the truck's so tall, and at the time, it was leaning in the rear end, so he could see turning in the driveway and stuff. Make sure he didn't run off, in the edge of the driveway. It turned out really nice. I love it. And again, it's one of those that, he don't drive it a lot, but every time it comes out, it plays. Never a dull moment with it.
Yeah, that's an epic install. And again, are those 12s, Keith, or are they 15s?
15s.
15s.
6 15s, yeah.
Wow. There's another shot of the compression drivers.
Yeah, those things are so loud.
Look at that port, man. That thing is crazy.
Well, and you may not have a finished picture of it, but that's, I think, 600 square inches. Something is what I started with.
Wow.
And as we shrank it, we did it out of plexi. So the back of the enclosure, if you look through the hole, has a skull, Punisher skull on it, in reflective vinyl, and it's white. So if you look back there, you don't see it because the box is white. But when the LEDs and all come on, then it changes colors with the LEDs.
Yeah. And
to be able to see it, because the port shrank so much, I think the port ended up being 220, 240 square inches. So the blocks or the partitions that I made to block it off or to make it smaller, I did out of plexiglass. So you could still see through it.
That's awesome. And so they were just like lined up thickness wise, I'm imagining.
No, it's actually looks like an L.
Oh, Okay.
like a shelf.
Nice.
Is actually what it looks like.
So I'm taking
And
it.
it's
Go ahead, Keith. I'm sorry.
it's 1 inch plexi, and it was a challenge to bend.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, no doubt. I was going to say, I bet you didn't use 1/2-inch drywall screws to mount that amp, did
No,
you?
3/4.
3/4. Okay.
No,
Much better.
actually, we were so afraid it would, because that back of that box is, I think, 5 inches thick. It has, like lag bolts that stick out, and you set it up on the studs and then put the nuts on.
Oh, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, but lifting that joker up to sit it on those studs, I bet it's a bunch of fun.
Right. Well, it's 2 people.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can't just say, "Oh, run get a screw, Ricky, and put it in quick."
Yeah, no, it's all of 88 pounds. That might be underrated for that amp. It's heavy. It's hard to just pick it up off the table, much less to hang it up like that.
Well, it's like those batteries are, I don't know, 160, 170 a piece. Them 480s.
Yeah. Those.
So you got 600 pounds of batteries sitting back there.
That is insane.
That'll squat one quick.
For sure. Well, I'm going to stop sharing the screen there for a minute. Y'all can see my ugly face. And I noticed that Lucas joined us in the chat. So, Lucas, I just wanted you to see the picture of yourself back here, because we know that's you. I figured it out. Keith didn't tell me. But anyway, yeah. So that's awesome, man. All those builds. I know you had a lot more stuff that didn't come through the internet pipes in time, so we could share it. But I think that is a great explanation of some of the things you've done over the years, and super impressive, man. I mean, just fantastic, and the fact that you stayed with it this long and you're still doing it today.
Yeah, that's what they say. A little slower.
Before we start getting to where we're wrapping up here, I got one important question. Give us a good old school story, man. Something funny or something crazy. Just one old school story. You've been around so long, man. You got to have plenty of them.
Well, and I know he's probably not watching, but it don't matter. So have you ever heard of the Masters Invitational show that they used to have in Bogart, Georgia?
Yep.
Okay, big money, right? They give away $25,000. I think Clark won it one. Well, I know Richard Clark won it 1 year. So the deal is you compete the first day and you qualify to be able to compete the second day. Am I still with you?
Yeah, go ahead. I just shared this screen so we can see something other than the little doggy pic. Sorry about that.
So one of the guys that was with us, which is Steve Morrison, the guy that was invited me to do the Daytona show, they're giving away trophies. It's like 3:00 in the morning, or they're announcing who's going to be there the next day. They're going through the preliminaries. So it's like 3:00 in the morning. Well, nobody can find him. Well, he's done crawled up on the stage where they had the table and got up under the table and went to sleep because he was tired. So they kept calling his name, looking for him, and of course we went on. They went on and completed what they were doing, and then when everything was breaking down and leaving, there he was asleep under the table.
And he didn't wake up the whole time?
Uh-uh.
Oh my goodness.
No, not at all.
Oh man,
that's awesome, Keith. So, so what would let people know? What's the best way to get at with you if they want some of your fabrication skills?
Just look me up on Facebook, or you can contact me through Savard. You can contact me through Will and Luke. If you can't find my phone number's public on my Facebook page, so I'm not hiding from anybody.
So it's Payne's Custom Fabrication, or just do a search for Keith Payne and
just Keith Payne.
Now it says retired when I pull you up. So what does that mean? What's that all about?
Yeah.
I don't pay taxes. No, I'm just
I got
you. Whatever I can get away with.
That's cool. Well,
I'll never retire.
Well, man, it sounds like you're doing something you love, and you're obviously a professional at what you do. So as long as you're happy with it, I wouldn't, see any reason or need to stop.
Well, like I said, I've met some, and everybody that's been around this long. I mean, you meet so many good people, and you have good contacts, and if you want to stay busy, you can stay busy.
Awesome.
For sure.
Well, cool, man. We greatly appreciate you taking your time here and going through the pictures with us and talking about some of your old school builds and how you feel about amplifiers and all that fun stuff. This is really lots of fun for us. We'll probably go ahead and end the audio podcast here shortly, and then those who are on YouTube, you can stick around for a little bit and ask Keith some questions, and we'll relay those to him. And if you are listening to this on the podcast application, realize we are on YouTube at youtube.com/12volttalk or 12vtalk. And there you can find the videos so you can see the stuff that we're talking about. We tried to make this so it's good for audio and video, but episodes like this, you really need to see the video version to get the full experience. So anything else you wanted to say, Rob?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about our podcast, Apple podcast reviews. We're in the 40s, so we get to 50, I'm giving away a sub, and I've decided it's probably going to be the ED sub, the Elemental Designs, the H212. And, I might just send you 2 of them. So we're very close. Keep doing that. And another announcement, we're on Spotify, y'all. We got on Spotify. Check us out on there, all the podcasts. So we're pretty pumped about that. That was quite a chore to get on there. Outside that, that's about all I got, D.
Yeah, I was gonna show them for those who are watching. That's Spotify right there. We're on Spotify.
Official.
So
Pop my collar.
Yep, we're excited about that.
Yeah.
So cool. Those again who are watching, check out Keith Payne. You can look him up on Facebook, Keith Payne, and hit him up if you want to have an epic build done. And I'm sure he can hook you up. And check out Rob at Hi-Fi Vega on YouTube, youtube.com/Hi-Fi Vega. Just search for Hi-Fi Vega. You'll find him. He's easy. I'm a little bit more difficult because I'm Big D Wiz and I'm Old School Stereo and I'm Wilson Audio Labs. And I'll think of something else to confuse y'all with sometime in the future. So until next time, we're out of here. All right. Cool deal, man, Keith. That's awesome, man. Thanks so much for
thank you for having me.
For sharing those stories and your builds. It's just incredible. I'm going to go through those who are still on the stream here. Ask your question if you've already asked it again so I can
Yeah, I'm going to try to go through some of them, see what I got.
If you have anything, especially for Keith, obviously, that's a Jeep killer, is what Craig says down in Australia. The wrap component set, we got some good feedback for the Savard wrap components. Obviously, the high Q subs, we've heard some good things about those. Mr. Juarez says, love the Excursion. It's crazy. Southeastern Street Racer says, I've sat in Fabian's truck and it's bad.
And Mark comes in said, wow, Naka reference. Cool. Hadn't heard that in a long time.
Let's see. I have a question about box size. I always like to use larger than recommended box sizes, personal preference. If you're doing 615s, for example, most likely you're not using recommended box sizes. So I know, and Keith, I'm sure you can answer this better than I can, but back in the day, especially when you're talking, these big installs, it was not let's optimize these speakers to the subwoofer box. It's let's see how many we can cram into the car.
Right.
So you as the installer can't say, well, if we were thinking about optimizing here, you need to run 6 of those instead of 24 of them. But
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's right. At some point, it's what they call it, the race to zero. It's just a matter of how many can you It's displacement.
Yep,
There's
that's
no
right.
replacement for displacement.
Let's
But
see.
yeah, when I do single, when you can, you got to remember a recommended volume. You got to look at the whole picture. Just say if they say it holds 100 watts or whatever the rating is, all that's based on Vox volume and tuning. So if you go smaller, obviously it holds more power. If you go bigger, it's going to hold less power. But normally by going a little bit bigger, you're going to play lower too. So, it depends on the FS that what you're trying to do. But yeah, I normally go 10 to 15% bigger than what they recommend.
That's a good tip. Brian asked a question about ported boxes. Do you advise porting through the rear deck of a sedan if you have a sedan instead of, just porting it into the trunk?
But if you want to eliminate trunk rattle, I mean, definitely. If you can port it up through the rear deck, you're going to not only eliminate that trunk rattle, but you're going to increase the quality of the sound.
That's cool.
Yeah, I would do that a lot. I would do it every time I could.
That's a good tip. That was a good question too, Brian. I guess I've thought about that before, but never really thought about getting somebody's opinion who knows what they're talking about, because most people I ask don't have a clue. Yeah, right, Rob?
Yeah, I don't know. I got lost in the comments here. There's so many, man. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah, somebody asked, is Pyle the old school version of Dayton Audio, a secret budget gem? Well, those who don't realize, back in, well, that was 80, what year was that, Daytona?
That was late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. So back then, a lot of the Pyle subs and even the Pyramid Pros, and there were several that weren't they all made by Eminence or some? Yeah. So even a lot of
right.
Yeah.
I mean, just like overseas, there's only a few manufacturers. There's only a few people putting them together. You just go pick your parts and what you want. And it was the same way when it was, Kavanaugh, Rockford. They were an OEM before Rockford bought them. So, I mean, they built a bunch of people's speakers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, that was very common.
They're all Eminence, all the speakers. JDR Mike, am I right?
all of you speakers
Yeah.
are Eminence. If it has 8mm X Max or less, it's an Eminence. But you have to understand Excursion versus X Max, because there is a difference, friends.
What's the difference, Big D?
Explain it to us.
Okay.
Wise one.
Wise one. I don't have a subwoofer here in my hand to show you, but X Max is the coil, how far it moves from the top plate, how far it moves. Excursion is how far the woofer moves up and down. Just because you have a lot of X Max doesn't mean you have a lot of Excursion, and vice versa. Make sense? I'm getting a lot of no's.
Wait,
Look it up. Excursion versus X Max. They're two different things. I promise
Are we
you,
talking about linear X Max?
because I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
And you got car audio for dummies.
And I watched a video, and somebody who's smarter than me explained that. I think
Wait,
it
I
was
hope no one ever
it was a guy
watches
from
one of our
Kicker.
video. I hope no one ever watches one of our videos and says that they watched a video and someone explained it to them.
Well, that's why we have experts on now, Rob, because they can
Well,
tell
we got
the truth.
Keith.
Yeah.
So if we're wrong, we'll just say, this is what Keith told us.
Yeah.
Blame it on him.
Somebody can tell me if I'm wrong. Okay. Yeah, see, they know I'm right. So I watched the video for Kicker. The Kicker guy said it, and I stole his.
Then you're an expert.
That's right, because I don't need 40 hertz or lower.
Can you hear below 40 hertz?
I didn't go there, did I?
Yeah.
So anybody else have any questions? Y'all are playing around with X Max and X Mech, and yeah, I got some different thoughts here. People believe in me or
I
not.
know, we're in trouble, man. That fool Sean King's on there.
Yes, he is telling us the truth. All right. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, y'all got any questions for Keith?
Any more questions for Keith before we let him enjoy his evening and probably get his dinner? Because it's probably, you eating already, Keith? Hope you
No,
have.
I got it sitting here on the table.
Oh
I got
Lord.
work to do.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't see. Okay. One more question. What do you feel about free air subs?
I
I
think
would
they work great.
I would say infinite baffle, not free air, because some people get confused. They think free air, you just sit the.
Well, yeah, infinite baffle. I mean, as long as you seal, like if you, I'm gonna say that sedan, you seal them, you seal the rear deck, and you sit. I mean, basically, you just build a really big enclosure. Is all you really do. Using the car, you dampen it. Then your 12s are in 30 or 25 cubic feet instead of 4. So they normally play really efficiently that way. They play really low. They used to make a thing called an aperiodic membrane that you placed on the front of the driver that controlled the cone movement during those type of installs, and I've used those before. We used to do a lot of image dynamics subs and free air applications, and that works real well. But it all goes back to the install. As long as the install's right, it's going to sound good.
Yeah, I remember those aperiodic membranes. They made them. They were around for a few years, and they all of a sudden just kind of disappeared. It's like nobody used them anymore. I don't know what the reason for that was.
So isn't that kind of the theory behind the strokers? But with the adjustable, I forget what it's called in the middle, that limits
No,
the.
that's not what that's for.
Oh, what's that for then? I've never had any. My last name's Megan.
Okay, think about this. All right, well, let's look at the theory behind it. The theory behind it is you can't put a magnet on the front and the back. But you can control the movement of that speaker at full excursion either way. Well, when it leaves the gap and goes up, a speaker will wobble, go side to side. So it travels on that piece, and that's why it's got a spider on the front of it. It stays more linear through its whole movement than a driver that doesn't.
Okay, so that's
Once
kind of
that thing's
that's what I was thinking, but I just didn't explain it right. That's kind of
Yeah, once that thing's set, like when they recon the driver, rebuild them, and they set it,
yeah.
you shouldn't mess with that. That's not it's not. Oh, my woofer's been hanging in my rear deck for 2 years. I need to pick it up a little bit because it's sagging. That's not what that's for.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it appears the new ones
But if
are
that's
not.
what you want to use it for, you can do it.
Yeah, I was just looking at the new ones that had just come out, and I don't see anything that looks like that in the center anymore.
No.
Right, and you remember the PPI that looks similar to it? I think they say, I don't know to be a fact, that Ken Koga designed the PPI woofer that looks similar to a stroker. It had a piece on it, but it didn't go through it. It's not this. It cosmetically looked similar, but was not the same thing.
But it wasn't the same thing. Yeah, and those strokers, they've had that design since the first one, right?
Yeah, I think those there, they just used the name. That's not the.
Yeah,
I mean, I know
don't-
they call them strokers, but
Yeah,
they be
those aren't the
stroking, but
same.
they not be stroking like they used to, is what you're saying.
Because you can tell the strokers all the way through the home speakers to the subwoofers. When the ones like Keith had, they were all basically the same design with small tweaks.
Yeah, I was trying to find a picture of the
well, yeah.
old one. See if there's a
You trying
better.
to find the other picture?
Well, yeah, this is a small picture, but you can see the. Ah, so small, man. Come on, people, post bigger pictures. There, you can see the
There you go.
centerpiece you were talking about there.
Yeah. But if you look at it on the new one, I don't think. I mean, I haven't seen one in person. I don't think it actually even functions the same.
Right. Yeah, I thought they were gonna make them look at least look a little bit more like the old ones, but apparently not. But yeah,
They did have some that kind of look like the new ones, but I don't know if they just didn't have it on the website yet. But I like he said, I don't think it works the same.
Well, there it is, the Stroker Pro. Maybe that's it. Okay. Yeah, that one. Yep, that one's got the little piece. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. $1,400 for a 15.
And that
That's
piece is
insane.
that piece functional? I bet it's not.
I don't know.
Yeah, that one's kind of got the spider on the outside too.
Yeah, it
And it's got
has
the
the
accordion surround too.
right. Well, I mean well, yeah, the PPI had a foam surround, like a regular surround. Uh, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen one in person. I don't know anybody that's has one to know if that's cosmetic or functional.
So we did have one good question. Someone asked, why were the bandpass ports so big and short in the big wall type or sixth order and fourth order types?
Well, you'd have to. Well, let's say. I'm trying to think of the best way to. It's a good question, but we'll just take. You seen JP's, Jonathan Price's?
Yeah.
It looks
Yep.
like Scott Bowman's and everybody. It looks like a 6-inch wall, and then nothing. Now you got to remember the wall that's opposite. They're using the opposite wall from that is the port too, because it's a slot.
Yeah.
There's a difference between a slot vent and a square port. A slot port uses parts of the enclosure for its length. Well, it never changes. You can't change it. So you have to average it. If that wall's 6 inches deep, a lot of people call it the loading wall. They put the loading wall up and say, we'll use this one for instance. Okay. When that hole is open like that, the two sides and the top and the back wall, all that's the port. So where does the port stop? The port stops at however long that bottom piece is and however long that rear wall is.
Yeah.
So if the back wall is 3 foot long, 36 inches, and that is 10 inches, you got a 26 or 28 inch port average. Well, the problem is when you start closing that hole, you still can't change the length of that back wall. That's why it's, you see people, they'll shrink them. They say shrink the port until you quit gaining SPL. When you quit gaining SPL, then it's tuned. Well, what's it tuned to? They don't care. They're just trying to get the meter to quit moving.
Yeah.
It's not about actually what it's tuned to. Then they run a sweep and they go, okay, my peak is 52. Well, hell, it must be tuned at 52 then. That's why I like square, or why I say square. I like things that I can calculate. If I want to change a port, I want to change all sides of it, just like a tube. If it's a 4-inch round pipe, 12 inches long, and I want it 6 inches long, I cut it in half. But if it's a slot and it's using a wall, there's a whole different calculation you got to come up with. So I guess the answer is why is that one wall so short? Because that's where they quit adding layers, and the SPL quit going up.
Well, that's a very good explanation. And people don't.
So just say it's right, because they'll tell you, or I say most designers will tell you, you build the port as big as you can in a fourth order. Then you shrink it. Once it plays, you shrink it till it quits gaining output. When it quits gaining output, stop. And whether that's, I can't say it doesn't work, because you see these things built every day, but that's just not the method of learning that we went through.
Cool. There was one other question that I wanted to hit on that I think is a good one that you'll see people ask all the time. Mounting a sub magnet out, does that affect the sound much? If so, why? Or if so, in what way?
I lost you, D.
Oh, you lost me? I'll try it again.
Yeah.
So one of the questions was mounting a sub magnet out of the box. Does it affect sound much? If so, in what way?
Well, all it does is change the amount of internal volume by the size of the driver. So just say if the driver, if you got a 1 cubic foot box and the woofer took up, and it's huge, but just say it took up a quarter. So now you have 3/4 cubic foot internal volume. Where if the speaker's mounted on the outside, you still have 1 cubic foot volume. Same way you see these boxes that are small that the ports stick out of. You know, the port will stick out of the box instead of sticking in the box.
Yep.
They do that because the port won't fit in the box. but also it takes up no internal volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks so cool that way too.
Yeah, it looks like a big bazooka tube
Not.
or something sticking out of it.
Yeah.
But I mean that's why they do it, because they want to tune low. Well, a small box tuned low means it's a long port. Well, the port ain't gonna fit, so you gotta. That's where you think about the transmission line designs where the port is ongoing. You know, it's super long. Well, the reason it works is because all that port takes away from the volume of the enclosure. So now the speaker's in a small enclosure in reality. They call it a transmission line. It's the distance that the sound travels before you hear it. Have you ever taken one of those? Bose patented that many years ago. You ever, Nissan had a 300, I think it was a 300ZX that had a 3.5-inch speaker in the center under the radio in a den pocket. Actually, it wasn't a 3.5. It was a tiny little speaker. But it was a sub. And the port was the whole enclosure, really. And it had bass.
Wow.
But
Yeah,
those
you could
acoustic
see-
waves and all that stuff, that's how they work.
Yeah, Derek's taken one of those apart in a video, matter of fact.
That video's got like 400,000 views too.
Yeah.
Because
I need to take more stuff apart.
Right. It's the distance. You know,
Yep.
You hear the car driving down the driveway and it's booming. Well, then he pulls up next to you and you're like, well, where'd all the bass go? You know, it takes time to develop that lower note.
Right.
And
I
that's
think-
why the bandpass boxes work like they do.
And, on the inverted speakers, I think some people get confused and they don't realize that a subwoofer can work either way.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So they think if you're facing it in the box, you're going to lose your bass. No, that's not how it works. It can go either way,
Right.
What do you mean?
People used to say it was beaten in.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gonna
beating
send
in.
all my sound inside the box. I don't want to do that.
So you know how to fix that, right? You got to put an air hole in the box to let the sound out.
And mount it to the outside because you don't have
Yeah.
enough room to put it on the inside.
You got to have an air hole. Let the sound out.
Well, cool, man. Keith, I know we kept you a little bit longer here, and we greatly appreciate your time and everything, and thanks everybody for joining in for the live stream and asking questions and hanging out. We appreciate the questions. Hopefully we got some people taken care of with those, and Keith's knowledge is great. I think we're pretty much good, unless anybody else has anything.
No, I think we're good. It's fun.
Yeah, cool. Thanks again, Keith, for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank y'all so much for having me.
Yeah, this was awesome. We this will go on the top of my list too as a fun one because seeing all your
Yeah.
builds, man, just incredible. I just
Well,
hate
let me tell you one last funny story.
Okay,
All right.
please.
Okay. So during this time I was building my truck, I lived in Georgia. Now this shows just how much Ray and Steve, I'm sure you've met Steve with Linear Power, Mike Flanagan, all those guys. They're just incredible people. So I'm trying to find these stroker woofers, right? Because to start with, I was running tantric subs. And I didn't know what I want. I knew I wanted strokers, but I couldn't find them. So we find them all over the country. And we slowly but surely, Mike went and traveled to somebody in Arkansas one time, picked one up, took it to Ray's house. Mike Matston, I think, had one. His worked, but it was wrong impedance, so he took it to Ray's house. So the last one we found, it was like in New Jersey somewhere. And so that one I shipped to Ray. So, Steve is in Oklahoma City. Well, Oklahoma is where SpeakerWorks is that rebuilds strokers. So Mike Flanagan makes a trip. He takes them up there, drops them off. When they're ready, Steve picks them up, makes a trip to Ray's house, and drops them off. So all I have to do is I have to figure. We're getting ready to go to finals in Tennessee, and all I have to do is figure out a way to get from Macon, Georgia, to Ray's house, which is nowhere near my house. So I decided. I said, "Man, I borrowed a van from my friend, and I said, I'm going to drive to Ray. I'm going to drive all night. It's like 8.5, 9 hour trip. I'm going to drive to Ray's, spend the night, get to Wolfers, leave the next morning, come home to Mobile, see my wife for a few minutes, go back to Georgia because that's where my truck is, put the Wolfers in, and then drive to Tennessee." So I make it to Ray's house. It's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, man. And Ray said, "You're welcome to spend the night." So that's what I was going to do. So I go in there. We don't put the stuff in the van or nothing. We just go ahead. I can go to bed. Get up 7:30. Wake Ray up. And I said, "Hey, man, where's the stuff at? You got to help me load it up." So we get the stuff loaded in the van. So we're walking in, and it's dark. We're walking from the house to the car, from the house to the car, getting all this stuff. I get in the van, still dark, head to Mobile. Now he's 2.5, 3 hours from me. So I get 15, 20 minutes from home. It's daylight and everything, I'm talking to my wife on the phone. I look in the rearview mirror and I went, "Oh my God, what is that?" I look back down. I look back up in the rearview mirror and it was gone. And I was like, "Man, am I seeing things?" About that time, it crawled between the seats up on the front seat. You still with me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm like, holy God. Somebody's dog had got in the van while I was at Ray's house and had got in the back of the van and had went to sleep.
Oh my
man.
goodness.
So I'm thinking, where did I stop? I didn't stop and get gas. How did this dog get in here? Where did this dog come from? So I take a picture of it and I send it to Ray. I said, "Hey, Ray, does this look familiar?" And he said, "Where'd you get that picture?" I said, "This dog is in the van, man." He said, "That's my neighbor's dog."
Oh no, you stole his neighbor's dog?
I said, "Well, how did this joker get in here?" He said, I don't know." I said, "Well, we left the door open, the sliding door open while we was loading it. He had to just jump in there."
Man.
So I said, "You need to talk to these people. It's 7, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning." I said, "You need to talk to these people because they probably let it out to use the bathroom or something." And, they're wondering where their dog is, why the dog ain't never come back. And it's like a Chihuahua on stilts, one of them little bitty dogs.
Yeah.
So Ray said, "I'll call you back." I said, "Okay." So I'm thinking the whole time, what am I going to do with this dog? Now I'm almost home. I got to drive back to Ray's house, then drive to Georgia,
Man.
instead of just driving from my house. So Ray calls me back and he goes, "Man, don't worry about it." And I said, "What do you mean don't worry about it? I got a dog in my truck, in my van." I don't like them people anyway. Don't bring it back.
No.
And I said, "What you mean? What you mean you don't like them?" He said, "I think that's that dog that barks all the time." He said, "I'm not even going to talk to them people over there." I said, "Man, you better go talk to them people." So by that time, I'm home, right? So I get home, I got to explain to my wife why I got a dog and tell her what's happening. And we have dogs, but I don't know if this dog don't have a collar on it. I don't know if he's got fleas, whatever. So we put it in the backyard. 15 minutes later, Ray calls me and goes, "Hey, I guess you need to, figure out how you're going to get that dog back." And I said, "All I need to do is, this is Saturday, I said, I get up tomorrow morning. I'm going to spend the night. I get up tomorrow morning. I'm just going to drive all day. I'll drive back to you, bring the dog." So I go out in the yard and the dog's gone.
Oh my God.
The joker has dug out from under my fence and is gone.
Oh my God.
I have still to this day never seen that dog again.
Did Ray ever talk to the neighbors?
I don't know.
Well, now they know if they're listening. I thought you could say you put them in a FedEx box and tried to ship them back or something.
Is that crazy?
That is insane.
Wow.
That's the craziest thing.
Man, that's funny.
I mean, when I looked at that rearview mirror and I seen that dog's head and his ears, I was like,
Is this Gremlins or something?
And then I just thought, man, I'm seeing things, right? And I look back up and it's gone. And I was like, oh, okay. And by that time, that joker couldn't come up through the front seats and the bucket seats and jumped up on the seat. I was like, oh, my God. But, yeah, that's the most random thing that has ever happened to me in my life.
Wow.
But,
That's
yeah, Ray,
funny.
Ray moved now. He don't still live in that neighborhood, so I guess, he moved on. And people never got the dog back.
Oh, man.
Oh, poor Benji.
Right.
Or Yo
I
Quiero
guess he
Taco
found
Bell.
friends in my neighborhood. I don't know. I've never seen the dog.
Man.
I think about him from time to time, but
Probably when you tell the story.
yeah. I'm like, oh.
Now Ray's never going to come on.
That's right.
Right. He was saying, "What you told him about the dog?"
Yeah, this was the after show, Ray. Nobody listens to this anyway.
Right.
All right, cool, man. Well,
right.
We'll sign off. Thanks everybody again for joining. Thanks Keith and Rob as always. And till next week.
Yeah, we'll see y'all later.
See you guys. Bye.